Mix It With Mike plugin of the week is from the Plugin Alliance. It's the NEOLD Big Al. Big Al. I think the AL, is from the AL4 tubes that are part of the saturation circuit. Essentially, what we have here is a dual stage tube saturator based on what they call novel circuitry. It's basically something that a hardware unit that was put together using parts that are new old stock parts. So basically new parts that haven't been used, but they're vintage. So they're from eras past. This is stuff from the 1930s. And essentially it's more or less like a tube saturation circuit with some transformers and other fun stuff in there. And more or less what you have, it's a pretty straightforward unit in terms of the operation, but you can actually get quite a lot of different tonal characters out of it, so it's kind of cool. The primary thing here is the drive control, so this will really determine the amount of saturation or distortion. You can go from very light and subtle on the lower side to driving in pretty heavily. And you may, add or take away a bit of gain, so you have an output level control, which is nothing to do with the saturation circuit. So this will just control the output level so you can balance it working through. You have a low frequency and a high frequency EQ, basically working on a Baxendal style of EQ. And so basically bass treble controls, more or less. So you can add a little plus minus there on that. This is set to around 100 hertz, which will drive a bit more saturation into that area. The high frequencies is a nice high frequency boost up around 10 kilohertz. Again, on the Baxendal curve, so you're getting a bit, kind of a more musical EQ, so that works. You have an out-in-out switch. You have a wet-dry control here on the mix settings. And then you have a bunch of jumpers here, which sort of add to the whole circuitry. Just quickly before I get to that, just so I don't forget, the meter can display one of three things, and it's tricky because you wouldn't notice if you weren't looking for it, but if you click here and drag, you have input gain reduction, so it'll actually show you how much gain loss you're getting due to saturation, and then the output level, right? So you can display any one of those three things. So that's not so obvious, so check out that little screw there. Over here, when you're running through the circuit, there's a couple of jumpers that you can add in. The E stands for emphasis. So this puts the emphasis on, which will give you a little bit more of a mid-range tone or texture. Great for guitars, great for vocals, great for anything that you want to bring out a little bit more clarity and imaging out of. Then there is a bass compensation on. So what this does is it actually turns the low saturation knob. You won't really get the boost. Like normally this is an EQ circuit, but if you have this in, when you do this boost, you're basically driving more saturation into that low frequency energy. And you're not getting the extra EQ along with it. Whereas if this is out, then you're getting both. So you're getting both the boost of low frequencies and more saturation into there. So hopefully that makes sense. And then the V is what they call a voltage sag. And essentially, the easiest way to sort of describe this, because I won't even go through, what they're talking about, something about adding a capacitor somewhere in there after the tube circuitry or before the tube saturation. However they actually did it, essentially what it does is it adds more even harmonics. So this is one of those things that sometimes comes across a little more subtle, sometimes comes across a little more aggressive, and it's just really dependent upon the sound that you're feeding into it. All right, so let's go to some audio examples here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this guy out here, zoom out here, and I'm going to move over to a vocal, because I think in the vocal and kind of playing around with this, I was able to kind of get some, like a kind of wider range and give you a good idea of what this is, and then maybe we can throw it on a few other instruments and see if we can, blow this thing up a little bit, show a little bit of something here. So I'm going to solo up the vocal here. Let me just pull my memory locations over here a little bit, just so I can dial in over to the verse. I'll zoom in so you can see what the hell's going on, and let's have a listen. So let's just A-B with it. This is just right in stock mode, no boost on high or low frequencies, no gain adjusts, just sort of a standard saturation thing, and then we'll go through some settings.
You know I'm way, I'm standing in place. You kick it with her, you know I'm for ya, but you can't deny me when you close your eyes. Been alone alone, this time is on ya. Seeing the sun fading away. Hope you know this ride can only go so far.
So adds a nice little bit of warmth in there. So just straight up without doing anything. We're going to leave it 100% wet. Let's just work with well, generally the way they say it is like put a little drive in first. So let's just you can hear the saturation. So let's start there and then we'll go through some of the different variations of the settings here.
You know I'll wait, I'm standing in place. You kick it with her, you know I'm for ya. But you can't deny me when you close your.
Right, so if I drive this and I can push more low end energy in.
You know I'll wait, I'm standing in place. You kick it with her, you know I'm for ya. But you can't deny.
Right, so if I wanted to kind of, tone it out a little bit to make it brighter.
You know I'll wait, I'm standing in place. You kick it with her, you know I'm for ya. But you can't deny.
And then maybe emphasize the mids a bit.
You know I'll wait, I'm standing in place. You kick it with her, you know I'm for ya. But you can't deny me when you close your eyes.
And probably have to tag on a little high pass filter over the top to kind of cap that. Anyway, just to give you a little bit of an idea. But let's just start with a kind of standard amount of drive here. Try to get like a little bit more of a natural kind of sound here.
You know I'll wait, I'm standing in place. You kick it with her, you know I'm for ya. But you can't deny me when you close your eyes. Being alone, this time is on ya. Seeing the sun fading away. Hope you know this ride can only go so far. The way you looking, I didn't notice till then. Who you fooling? 'Cause I don't believe your lies no more when you're talking. I just know you're clowning. Who you fooling? 'Cause I don't believe your lies no more. You're trying, you lost me, thinking that you could leave me, losing all the lies that you tell. The one who you're chasing, she ain't bad like me. Don't believe the lies that you tell.
So I may need to back off on the drive, but I kind of like what that's doing for the presence.
You know I'll wait, I'm standing in place. You kick it with her, you know I'm for ya. But you can't deny me when you close your eyes. Being alone, this time is on ya. Seeing the sun fading away.
Really does a wonderful thing just for the imaging. Let's just hear that in the track real quick.
You know I'll wait, I'm standing in place. You kick it with her, you know I'm for ya. But you can't deny me when you close your eyes. Being alone, this time is on ya. Seeing the sun fading away. Hope you know this ride can only go so far. The way you looking, I didn't notice till then. Who you fooling? 'Cause I don't believe your lies no more when you're talking. I just know you're clowning. Who you fooling? 'Cause I don't believe your lies no more. You're trying, you lost me, thinking that you could.
All right, so it gets a little scratchy there up on the top, but you could hear how, especially in that verse, how it really kind of brought out a lot of presence. Maybe over the course of the whole song, it didn't work there, or maybe this is just a bit too much to bring in, and let me kind of drive a little bit more of the natural harmonic through.
You know I'll wait, I'm standing in place. You kick it with her, you know I'm for ya. But you can't deny me when you close your eyes. Being alone, this time is on ya. Seeing the sun fading away. Hope you know this ride can only go so far. The way you looking, I didn't notice till then. Who you fooling? 'Cause I don't believe your lies no more when you're talking. I just know you're clowning. Who you fooling? 'Cause I don't believe your lies no more. You're trying.
This may sit at like a little bit of a high frequency for the vocal here, but I think, I can push in a little bit
You know
more.
I'll wait, I'm standing in place. You kick it with her, you know I'm for ya. But you can't deny me when you close your eyes. Being alone, this time is on ya. Seeing the sun fading away. Hope you know this ride can only go so far.
It probably works a little bit more balanced overall for this. All right, let's move on to something like that might on the other end of the spectrum here, which would be a bass, and this is perhaps where that even harmonic distortion might push a little bit better. So let's just see. I got to move to the chorus section. So this is something where if I didn't want to add any more bass, I could drive more distortion into it just right from here. Alright, got a little more presence out of that.
You're trying, you lost me, thinking that you could leave me, losing all the lies that you tell. The one who you chase and cheat ain't bad like me, don't believe that.
Let's see what happens if I drive this a bit more and then do the mix control. Alright, so I could work either way, drive in a little bit harder into it, and push that. I think I probably like a little bit more of where I was here, like this.
You're trying, you lost me, thinking that you could leave me, losing all the lies that you tell. The one who you chase and cheat.
Maybe this works with the emphasis control here. It actually does a really nice job of bringing out the note of the bass, but probably within the context of the mix, I would have to adjust like other things. But I like the warmth that this brings into that. Let's see what we can do here with a kick drum sound. Let's see what we can bring up with this. Just creating something different here. I mean, this is not going to work for the track, but let's see. Let's see what happens here.
You're trying, you lost me, thinking that you could leave me.
Yeah, it's just totally not appropriate for this, but just to give you an idea of like some of the things that you can do with it. So let me go back here for a second. This is a great way of getting like that tight low end. Okay, let's see. So anyway, you hear how like you can really shape something in to that's a definitive, like a very like EDM character with that attack, that accentuated attack, but also that saturation that kind of keeps the low end nice and tight. Very cool. Again, I'm not sure that it's like the best thing for this particular track, but definitely has that character. Well, that might be worth working in, because the dry sound itself is not really quite focused in enough in this mix. Let's see if we can put something. We also have a clap sound right here that also comes in this section. Let's check that out. This is something I could probably play with here with the even harmonics. Okay, so I like what that's doing on that side of things. Let's see what else we got. Have a couple of other keyboard parts. There's one section here where I wanted to bring out some warmth in a piano part. Let's just see if I can do that here a little bit. So I just have this. All right, see what that sounds like in the track. Okay, so that really helps with what I wanted to do there. Anyway, I think you can see a little bit of the flexibility, even if all of the settings that I've done here don't work perfectly for the track. There's certainly a lot of variation of tone that you can get by driving things in more or less aggressively, working with the different, low and high frequency Baxandall EQs, the mid-range emphasis, which really seemed to work amazingly well on the kick drum, the ability to drive the bass, more specifically, work with more even harmonic distortion. It's the combination of all those things. It's kind of a cool unit. That's something I see that being very useful in probably almost any mix that you do. Just even putting it on for a subtle saturation, which with just a default setting adds a little bit of texture and warmth. Could even be something that you put across a whole series of tracks or stem returns or even all of the tracks, just to kind of get a little bit of warmth and body into your overall mix. It's a cool one. Simple little plugin. Big Al is the name, and it's the plugin of the week from the Plugin Alliance.